The U.S. Labor Secretary is hosting talks with freight railroad and union officials in Washington today. The Biden administration is trying to avoid a railway shutdown on Friday, something that could cost the U.S. economy $2 billion per day. Now, tens of thousands of union railway workers are preparing to strike over claims of grueling schedules, staffing shortages, and poor working conditions. CBS News' senior White House political correspondent Ed O'Keefe joins us now. Ed, good afternoon to you. What do we know about today's talks and what the Biden administration is actually doing to prevent this strike that could happen this week?
Well, they're hosting the talks over at the Labor Department. Secretary Marty Walsh has brought the parties together here in Washington. Talks began about 9 a.m. this morning. The White House signaling a little while ago that the parties are still negotiating in good faith and have committed to staying at the table today. There's no deadline today. It's really going into tomorrow night into Friday, where the nail biting will really begin if there is no deal. Throughout the course of this week, President Biden, other cabinet secretaries have been in touch with the railroad companies and the unions to make sure that some kind of an agreement can be reached. And the administration points out they've actually been at this since the spring when the talks really began. It's just this impasse continues regarding leave and some other worker conditions. But there's a big understanding here, not only at the White House, but up on Capitol Hill, up on Wall Street, across the country, that if a strike were to start, it could, as you pointed out, cost $2 billion a day in lost productivity, would affect 7,000 trains across the country, across 140,000 miles of track in 49 states. This is an economic problem the country can't afford right now, amid concerns about the economy rebounding after the pandemic and, of course, amid concerns about inflation.
Wonder, Ed, why they weren't able to figure this out a bit earlier. As you just pointed to, they've been negotiating this since the spring. Inflation has been this like lurking boogeyman in the background all year.
Yeah.
Does the White House even have a plan should this agreement not be reached by the end of the week, and should all of us start to see a slowdown in how things are delivered?
It's not just the White House that would have a plan. It's actually Washington collectively, because Congress could pass a law, as they did back in 1982 and 1986, to end a railroad strike. Very simple. House and Senate would pass something that basically says you can't strike, and the president would sign it. The question is whether a Democratic-controlled Congress and a Democratic president who were backed by labor unions would take that kind of step against labor unions who are at this impasse with railroad companies. We should point out there's about a dozen railroad worker unions. Most have agreed to a new agreement. There's about 2 or 3 that are holding out here that is holding this up. So most have signed on over months of talks. It's just these final details with these final unions. The other thing that could happen is, in essence, Congress, instead of stopping the strike, could extend it with a cooling off period, or give the parties more time to sort out their differences and set a new deadline. That is another possibility, but you've seen Democrats and Republicans both saying the country doesn't need this. It would affect agricultural exports because, of course, they get trained out of the Midwest, out of the heartland, to the coasts to get shipped overseas, especially at a time of a global food crisis to begin with. It would affect farmers. Others, of course, concerned about supply chain concerns getting so close to the holiday shopping season and as school gets back in session. So everyone understands this has got to get sorted out, which is why there's so much attention on those talks that are ongoing at the Labor Department.
Yeah, you can have all the agreements in the world, but you can't make people show up to work if they're not happy. I guess we'll just keep an eye on it, of course.
Well, the point is, with this law, you could. And they're allowed to do that because the railroads are such a critical part of the American economy. So whether they're willing to take that step or need to take that step is something that may only get sorted out in the next day or so.
With that, Ed, would there be consequences? Could somebody go to jail for not showing up to work?
We'd have to see what the text of that legislation is, but conceivably, yes. Conceivably, yes.
Wow. President Biden is also delivering remarks today, Ed, on the electric vehicle manufacturing later today. What more do we know about that?
He has been on the floor of the Detroit Auto Show most of this morning, getting a look at Corvettes and Silverados and some new Ford models from the CEOs of the 2 big American vehicle manufacturers. You see there, he was hanging out with Mary Barra and Mr. Ford a little while ago, who were showing him new models. This stop is designed to do a few things. One, tout the fact that the bipartisan infrastructure law put about $7.5 billion into building out a national network of electric vehicle chargers, that the Inflation Reduction Act that was passed this summer includes incentives for Americans to buy electric vehicles, and that the CHIPS Act, which was passed in bipartisan fashion this year, also puts up billions of dollars in government investment in semiconductor manufacturing plants, of course, the computer chips that would be needed to run these electric vehicles. Big part of the president's push to say, you send Democrats back to Congress, we'll continue to do these kinds of things to boost the American economy. And as you can see there, it gave a guy who likes himself a convertible a chance to check out a new one.
I think you'd look good in that orange car, too. I don't know if you can see it, but I could see you in that, Ed.
Ed can see.
I don't mind the color orange. I'd be cool with it.
Ed O'Keefe.
Thank you, Ed.
Take care.